All right, so welcome to the Joe Mars podcast. And as usual, we bring you interesting and very lucrative, should I say, very engaging conversations right here on the podcast. My name is Joe Mars. And if you haven't taken the time to go through our description on this video, just check us out on all of our social media handles. That is on Joe Mars Official or Joe Mars on Radio on Facebook. And of course, we've got a website which we always post on our description right here for more content. Today on the show, we are having a very interesting conversation. And if you see, there's a gentleman right in front of you who is going to be talking to us, and of course, having a really brilliant conversation, one of which I've always wanted to have when I was growing up. The thing is, when I grew up, there was a different kind of genre of music being played on radio. That sort of changed the advent of the 90s, or should I say 90s, early 2000s, or late 90s, when a new breed of artists in Zimbabwe started to come through. But I don't want to talk a lot and obviously spill the beans on the conversation that we're having today. But I'll be speaking to Takura Makoni, the elder brother to the legend and the greatest of all time, MC, rapper, and lyricist. And his name is Tonderai Kingpinn Makoni. Welcome to the show, Rassie. Welcome to the Joe Mars podcast.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's great to have you here. I mean, for the longest in my career, I've always wanted to do something, on the legend, the man, and the star himself, Kingpin. And thanks for having the time. You don't know how much this means for me.
Um, Thank you for honoring him, and I'm sure he's looking down with a twinkle in his eyes.
How is the family doing? Let's start with that. How's the family doing? How's the Makoni family doing? How are you doing? How is your other brother? Forgive me, I don't know much, so I'll just probably generalize and ask you on how is your family doing?
Our family is doing well under the circumstances that we all currently are living under. I have another sibling, a younger brother called Tafara. He's doing very well with his family, and our parents are back home, doing well, alive, and I think that this is a blessing.
Mhm.
Just to be alive today, I think everybody could start counting from when they wake up that their blessing has begun. As long as you can wake up and live, then it's a good thing.
Yeah, as long as you can wake up. And I think that is the motto that we have to go with these days because a lot of things are just going wrong. It's not only the COVID-19, it could be the politics of the world, it could be the social settings or whatever it is. Just a whole lot of things that are not going well. But I'm glad that you are happy and you are happy on the fact that you wake up and then you get to live life. You get to have another day. So I
Thank you.
presume you are in England,
And no, I'm not in England. I'm in Ireland.
Ireland. Okay, Ireland.
Yes.
How are things going that side?
In terms of
In
life in
terms of
general, or
yeah, the general island setting, Ireland. We don't hear a lot about that. You guys are pretty quiet down up there.
well, that depends on your guess, your scope of media or where you hear about what you hear about. I mean, Ireland is the very least, the very last thing Ireland is a quiet place. There's enough activity here in Ireland to keep us busy. So yeah, Ireland is good. I love Ireland.
All right. So let's that's good to hear. Let's now turn our focus into the real gist of the story why we decided to have this conversation. You were born in a family of three boys, you being the eldest. Kingpinn being the second, and then you spoke of another brother, the last born in your family. How while growing up, how close were you as siblings?
We're very close. We were very close, as most others are. You know, I can't elaborate more than that. We were very close. They were my brothers. We grew up together in the same house and doing, growing up under the tutelage of our parents. So we were very close in that regard.
Is there anything that sticks out or that stuck out between each of your siblings when you were growing up, that became true when eventually they were mature adults?
What do you mean that sticks out and became true?
Uh,
Just elaborate on
like
what you
like
mean by
like
that.
for example, a young kid might just pick up the love for playing with a football, or in this instance, musically, might just pick up one or two things, and you can see, oh, okay, this young man has this love for music, and then eventually it becomes true. He becomes an MC, he becomes a rapper, something like that.
I don't know. I think that that question would be better directed to either one of my parents rather than me, because I wasn't a parent of my siblings. I was a sibling and I was growing up with them, so I wouldn't be analyzing them like that. But to
Mm,
be honest with you, about Kingpin's emergence into rap, it was unexpected because, um, I mean, we all used to. I mean, Kingpin would listen to. He would obviously hear what I was listening to as his older sibling, just like I would, listen to my older siblings, my cousins, and what they were listening to, and that influenced me. So in that regard, that would influence him. But his coming to being an MC was a complete like surprise. I'll tell you that story at some point. But yeah, so in terms of what you're saying, like, did I see something in him as his older brother that, yeah, one day he might turn? No, there was nothing like that. It wasn't like
mm.
that.
Okay, so he was a normal boy, and you were all just normal kids living life, as you said, under the tutelage of the Makoni parents. It was just a normal household.
Yeah, I mean, every household has, you know, well, not every household, but most households have children in it, and those children will do things that children do. They will play, they will listen to music, they will have adventures, they will, uh, you know, use their imagination and be creative, and we did nothing short of what other children anywhere in the world would do.
Mm. You grew up going or living in different places. As far as the information that I've collected on the internet, you guys, there's mention of Thornhill Primary School. I don't know if you learned there as well, but that was for Kingpin. There's Watershed College in Marondera. There's the issue, or should I say, the fact that Kingpin was born in Leicester, in England. In England, so there was a lot of moving around as a family. Correct?
Yeah, my father was involved in the liberation struggle, um, in as far as, student activist at the University of Rhodesia, which is now the University of Zimbabwe, and he was exiled by the regime. He escaped with, some colleagues, some fellow activists. Ibo Mandaza was one of them. They escaped by foot to Botswana, and from Botswana, uh, the youth wing of the party assisted them to continue their studies in England, where they also continued to be fundraisers and activists for the party. And yeah, that's how myself and Tondi ended up being born. Myself in Leeds and Tondi in Leicester.
So that
So
was
sorry, I was trying to elaborate on the travel part. So yeah,
okay.
so that's where the travels would have begun for myself and Tondi. But then, of course, at independence, my parents returned to Zimbabwe, um, and and then after a while, my father was appointed to a position in SADC, the Southern African Development Coordination Conference, as it was called then. I think the name changed to something else, but similar. Now there's just one C, I believe. But yeah, and then that's how we ended up. I was at Thornhill as well for a time with my brothers, and then I proceeded later, and then of course we came back to Zimbabwe. So that would sort of explain why we went to a number of schools in a number of
Mm,
countries.
mm. The three of you are mentioned quite vividly on a lot of internet and or on a lot of writings that are on the internet. But I've tried to search for Tafara and whether or not he is musically inclined as well, just as you, Tondra and Takura, were musically inclined. Is he in any way whatsoever musically gifted or pursuing music?
My brother is he's into production. Tafara is into production. I've heard a few of his tracks. You may know of an MC called Stabs. Um, uh, his well, there's no need to get into his government name, but his name is Stabs. He's one of the hip hop artists from Zim, and my brother's worked on some of his stuff as well as other artists. But um, I would say at the moment he's not actively in the music, as he's just really um, sort of adjusting to everything that we're adjusting to at the moment. And he's recently moved to the UK. He was based in Harare, so he's recently joined his family in the UK. So I think he's pretty much busy settling down in the UK. Under these circumstances, it's a whole new world. So yeah, but I'm sure once he's settled down, we'll start hearing something from him too.
All right. That's really, really brilliant. I mean, not a lot of parents get to witness their children's abilities or their children's ambitions or whatever they set their minds on, because either they're too late, they're too old, or they really don't have that that clear understanding. But it's nice that the whole family had this whole thing, this whole love for music. And I guess they kind of took it from you, as you rightfully say, that they would listen to me, such as you took it from your cousins and your elders as well, the stuff that they were listening to. When you were growing up, what what were your biggest bands, your greatest follow, or the artists that you'd follow the most when you were growing up?
Can you just repeat the beginning of the question, because it sort of clipped out there, the sound, so I missed that.
Okay. I was asking of your biggest inspirations, your greatest, the musicians that you listened to and you looked up to when you were growing up, such that they sort of influenced Kingpin as well.
Well, that's a question that it's not easy to answer, because when you say what influenced me as I was growing up, the question itself, it intimates that it was a process. So the music that influenced me between the age of 5 to 10 would have been different to what influenced me between 10 to 15, and so on and so forth. So that question, we could spend the whole day answering that question. Um, uh,
Okay.
I listened to a lot of, as I was growing up, I listened to a lot of different music from all over the world because, as you've already explored, my family traveled a lot, and I think one of the most enjoyable things I remember from my youth that I really used to enjoy was the family trips on holidays. Say, the school holidays, we may travel from Gaborone, Botswana to Harare and everywhere else in between, seeing relatives, and we would do this by car. So, this was in the 80s and and part of the early 90s. And you can, for your older viewers, they will remember that we used to listen to cassettes. So obviously my dad had his cassette tapes. He had his like his favorite mixtapes and whatever that he would play on these journeys, and this is what informed me musically. So we would listen to everything from Ladysmith, Black Mambazo to UB40 to um oh man, I mean Dolly Parton, and then of course, as because we were in the car as well.
Mhm.
Of course, around this time, Tafara would have been much younger than us, but certainly as the oldest, I would have had my own cassettes that at some point I would, impose myself on the car. And, obviously my father and my mother would allow that for that period, as long as what we're listening to was fairly, decent. And I can
Decent.
remember,
Yeah.
I can remember listening to Billy Idol's album. I think it was the album with Rebel Yell and White Wedding. That again would have been the influence of my elder brothers and sisters, who listen to music from all over the world. So yeah,
Mhm.
in terms of trying to answer your question, I think that's the best way I can answer your question about what influenced me musically growing up. Because the timeline is quite, I'm not that young anymore, so the timeline is, I guess if you're saying as I was growing up from about 5 to 18, I listened to a lot of different music, man, from
Yeah.
everywhere. And that
Mm.
influenced not only my musical passions, but my brothers, my younger brothers' musical passions, and, whoever else was around us.
Mm. Mm. So you know why I asked this question, because most of the times you have this huge following, eh? You have this huge follow, or you have this huge personality that you look up to, and you're always trying to sing like them. And when I listen to some of the music that you guys produced at the time when you were now performing and old enough to to carve your own sort of musical direction, I sensed a lot
Mm-hmm.
of I sensed a lot of reggae. It's funny that you mentioned Billy Ocean, Billy Joel, and and I didn't sense
I
that.
was talking. I said Billy Idol.
Billy Idol,
Billy
okay,
Idol is
okay.
like he's a rock star. He's like he was like crazy, man. He was amazing. Still is amazing, I'm sure.
So my point was trying to get at the sort of stuff that I got within the music that you guys produced, within the music that Kingpin produced, and uh, I had my own sort of artist that I was hoping to hear from you, but then maybe, as you rightfully said, since you are a very you've enjoyed a lot of years on this earth, you have a lot of music that you have listened to, and most might not remember the stuff that you were listening to when you were growing up.
But
But I,
also, to
Mhm.
interrupt you, Joe, to interrupt you also, it just wouldn't be fair, excuse me, to try and name the artists that influenced me or my brother, because you're always going to miss out some, because there's
Mm,
just so much music out there. There's so many influential artists, even artists who, whose songs I didn't like or whose music I don't like. They influence me,
mm,
because
mm,
they may influence me to be like, ah, man, I don't want to represent my music like that. Or he or she could have done it like this, and that is an influence. So that's why I'm saying it's an exercise I don't enjoy engaging in when asked, which artist you, or which time is not static, and that influence is not, it is not permanent, in terms of, a certain phase in your life may be influenced by a certain type of art or a certain type of expression, and then you grow as an artist and as a human, and perhaps that growth also invites different influences that again have an overall effect on you as a human being and as an artist. So that's why I really don't like engaging in that exercise, unless the person who's asking me that question really has enough time to sit down and hear me go through every single artist or producer or whatever that really influenced me, because there is a lot. So that's
Okay.
why I don't like, and that's why I probably mentioned something as obtuse as Billy Idol, because he
Mm,
did influence me. But that's why
okay.
I'm trying to show you that, by mentioning Billy Idol, if I try and mention the people who influenced me, and by proxy some of the people who may have influenced Kingpinn, will be here all day, and it will not be fair, and it still won't be fair to some of the artists who I won't mention, simply because time may have caused me to forget their names or the influence that they had on me, or just, circumstance. So I don't like engaging in that. I'm just trying to explain why, I'm being elusive with that question.
Okay.
But I've
Under-
answered it still.
yes, you have, and understandably so. I mean, as an artist, I do understand your perspective, and I respect that. You were
Thank
at
you.
school with Kingpin at how many years could you say you were a brother to Kingpin at a certain school, or whichever school you guys would be learning at? You did mention
Well, I was 5 years older than Tony, so I wasn't at school with him long. I think we were at Thornhill together maybe for 2, maybe 3 years at most, and then I came back to Harare and I was at Highlands, and from then I never went to school with him again, because um, he was schooling in Botswana and I was schooling in Zimbabwe, and then by the time he was in high school in Zimbabwe, I was done with school, so, or I was on my way out of high school. So
yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about the you did mention that Kingpin's entry into music was a shock. You used a different word, but it was unexpected. Yeah, it was something that you really didn't think it was going to happen. Like he was going to focus on music, or he was going to be an artist as he was known to be back in the day. Let's talk about that for a moment. When and how did he come to you and say, brother, I want to do music, or I want to record, or I want to
Okay.
perform? Yeah.
Okay. Now it wasn't like a complete surprise, like a shock, but at the same time, it wasn't like something that I completely didn't expect. It was just um, the powers of it. It was so powerful the way it happened. At the time, Tony was, I think he was finishing up high school at Watershed, transitioning to college in Cape Town. And at the time, I was part of a group called the Blackfoot Tribe. So I think in that period, we used to hang out a lot, because, Tony was now a young man as well. And so we used to hang out a lot. And, as his older brother, he'd move around with me and my friends. And he was very much interested in filmography. So, or videography. So he'd come with us when we had shows, and he'd do a lot of video recording of that. And then he bounced to South Africa, and he'd come back during the holidays and stuff. But then the one time he came back, um, we were chilling at my dad's house, and he called me and he was like, yo, Taco, I want you to check out something. Right? And I was like, okay, whatever. So I go to his room and he's like, right, I've been writing some rhymes and, I've been getting my stuff ready. And I just wanted you to, to tell me what you think. So I was like, okay, cool. So he put on the beat and then he goes into this rhyme. I don't remember what the rhyme was at the time, but it was powerful. So I was like, okay, when he was done, he was like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, man, it's all right, it's cool. I was very, nonchalant with my response, I was like, yeah, it's all good. Yeah, yeah. Work on it, you're getting there. And then I went to my room. So in my room, I was like, damn, what the? And that was the day for me because at the time, when I got into music, as a lyricist or as a as a writer, I got into music I used to write rap, you know, and I was a hip hop artist basically, and I was still sort of straddling that sort of border between hip hop and dancehall when Kingpin came that day and introduced me to you know, his soon to be reigning period. And he was like, that was the day I decided, okay, hip hop, yeah, I think Ndakwana, and I don't think I've got anything I can contribute there because it's looking tight. So that was the day. That was why for me that day was like I particularly remember and savor that day because he effectively was just basically telling me, Kuti, move out the way.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
That's really powerful. And I mean, you were exploring two genres that sort of have some uh, some connection between the two, hip hop and dancehall, largely because it is performed by black people and it's our story and etc etc. But I guess to have this to be strong enough to say, okay, my little brother sort of has this understanding or is gonna be a good hip hop artist. Let him be and let me not compete with him. And then I'd rather take this route. That shows a real sense of love, man. I mean, some people would most probably think, okay, now we're doing hip hop together. Let's see who's going to be the best. Let's see who's going to do it better than the other. But you were like, okay, let me leave you to it, and I think it panned out well. So I just want for this moment to just thank you for I, I don't know, for that gesture of goodwill that you showed him.
It wasn't goodwill, fam. I had to move. I had to move, man. I had nothing to contribute, bro. No, what I wanted to elaborate on is when you say hip hop and dancehall are connected, it's a bit deeper than that. Um, Hip hop is a direct descendant of reggae music. Um, there's a direct connection because you know the actual the actual tradition of putting together a sound system, collecting speakers, amplifiers, and putting them onto a mixer. That came from Jamaica. Okay, that originated in Jamaica from people like Duke Reed, Lee Scratch Perry. So many. I mean, I can't start mentioning them who originated the thing. Um, but what happened was a young man called Cool Herc in New York, of Jamaican parentage, he would see his father, doing, or reminiscing on what they used to do back in Jamaica, which is string up a sound system and, and entertain the people. It's much the same as what our parents or some of us who are a bit older would have done in the early 80s and the 70s when we were not allowed to be in Salisbury and Guello and Amtali, at certain times during curfews. So what we would
Yeah.
do in our locations, or what they call garrisons in Jamaica, or what they call projects in America, or estates in the UK. If you're seeing a pattern here, the pattern is that it's all the same. It doesn't matter where you are, right?
Yeah.
The system will put you in these ghettos, and then because you are deprived, you try to create some kind of heaven on earth for yourself to take you away from this deprivation. So this is what these young Jamaican uh, brothers and sisters did in Jamaica, and then that tradition was carried into New York by a young man called Kool Herc, as I said. And what Kool Herc invented the mixer, which we now just take for granted today. But he did this by having these, at the time it wasn't called hip hop, right? Having these parties in abandoned buildings and so on. And in trying to find a way to play two records at the same time so that the music remained continuous. This is how he invented the mixer. Okay. And
Yeah.
so this is the direct correlation between hip hop and reggae
And
that a lot
reggae.
of people like to under sort of play, but that's why it's there. I mean, rapping is just basically uh, another style of toasting, which again originated in Jamaica. And
Mm.
what the Jamaicans were doing by introducing this toasting style, introducing this different rhythmic style to what they were hearing in America, from America, etc., was exactly what Africans all over the globe have been doing for ages. That's how you have genres like sungura and rumba, calypso, and so on. It's
Mm.
us
Mm.
African people, not having the access to the tools to make, the commercial music which these guys make, but then using what we have to creatively make something that sounds nice to us, right?
Mm.
When it starts sound nice to us and it starts sweet, then them run come in and steal it from we. But that's another conversation. But anyway,
For another day.
I just wanted to touch on that. That it's not a sort of loose connection between reggae and hip hop. It's a very strong connection. It's very strong. This is black people music, and it comes from struggles, and these struggles are what's the word I'm looking for? These struggles can be found within the black community, whichever part of the earth you go to. So this
Mm.
is a similar
They're
thing
unique.
we experience.
They're
Yeah.
unique to us. Let's then fast forward to, your little brother's come through and he's doing some rap and you're like, yo, I need to move away, I need to move over. Okay. And you don't remember the first rhymes or rap that he delivered for you, but do you remember the very first song that Kingpin that you listened to from Kingpin?
Well, the first recorded song.
The first recorded song, yes.
I remember being in the studio with him when he recorded it. Yeah, of course, because I
Which song is
carried him.
that?
I took him to the studio. Um, I think the first song, "Snap." I can't remember the name of it, to be honest, but it was actually a Blackfoot Tribe song. The producer, um, who the producer who produced that song is Ian Hillman. He was one of the Hillman brothers. If you remember, Ian and William Hillman were part of the Storm, which was Andy Brown's band.
Okay,
Okay,
okay, yeah.
and so Ian was he was a dope drummer. I think he was one of the youngest drummers in Zim at the time, and he was powerful. But he was also a producer. So he had a couple of tracks he had produced. He carried us to Gilbert Muvavari to a studio. I think that was the time we were actually introduced to Gilbert by Ian, and we recorded. It was a Blackfoot Tribe song, and Kingpin was featuring on that song. I don't remember what it was called, but that was the first time I heard Kingpin on the track.
Oh wow.
Mm.
It's been pretty hard. I don't want to lie to you. Trying to locate music from the Blackfoot tribe, music from Kingpin, all of his performances and stuff like that. Um, there were a couple of mentions on one or two online platforms of a website. I was so happy when I saw that link. I went there. There's nothing. There's nothing on iTunes and stuff like that. Do you have plans as as the Marconi family, as Rassie I, as the brother who took him to his very first recording, to somehow have this music available on platforms such as iTunes, Deezer, you name it.
Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of Kingpin stuff available online. You just have to know where to look, and ask me and I'll point you to the way.
That's the
But
thing. That's it. That's the
but
thing. I,
again,
I
like,
didn't know where to look.
well, we
It's pretty hidden.
what's available of Kingpins right now is not commercially available. You understand? We share the music out of the love of sharing the music. Um, but part of why it's difficult to find it is because sometimes people try and take advantage of that and try and make money off of artists' music. It's not about Kingpin. It's about
Mm,
artists in general. So that's one of the things we try to
mm,
safeguard against. But excuse me, we do make his music's available. Go to my SoundCloud. You can download Kingpin's music for free. Go to my Facebook. You can find links to his stuff. Blackfoot Tribe as well is available on my SoundCloud. But with regards to the Blackfoot Tribe, um, Tony Chief Chiwota, one of the members of the Blackfoot Tribe, also a former member of Piece of Ebony, sorry. He's
mm,
working on a Blackfoot Tribe project right now. Um, he's working on releasing some of the old Blackfoot Tribe stuff and making it available on some of those platforms that you're talking about. So I would you know log into Tony's platforms and make sure you keep tuned into him. He'll let you know what's going on with that.
mm.
Yeah, but
King,
with regards to Kingpin, sorry if you let me finish. My apologies.
yeah.
Um, DJ Losa, or some people know him as Malosa, or some people know his organization as Gilo Media. They're based in Canada. He's working on a documentary. Um, you may also be aware of the "I Salute You" graphic video, which is out there. That was done by DJ Malosa. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit you up on some links after this, and then you can put those links in your description or whatever for your listeners or watchers, so that they can check out the links that I'm talking about. You
Yeah.
know, one of the reasons why there's not a lot of material out there is also because we grew up in the 90s, fam. When you know we didn't have cell phones and that could record video and whatever. So for the most part, if we were trying to do a professional recording, it had to be done on a Betamax, you know,
Mm,
and that was expensive. Most of the time when we were doing live shows, we worked off DAT tapes. So
mm,
um, we don't have a lot of recordings because we were busy doing the performances. Right now you actually have artists who go on stage with a phone and he's busy performing while recording himself or herself.
mm,
So it's a
mm,
it's a different it's a different world out there, man. I mean, we didn't have social media and platforms to advertise. So people knew us because they saw us in the street, they heard us performing at shows, and that's how our name traveled.
mm, mm,
And those who were lucky enough to have recorded the session on a TDK, that TDK found its way, through the grapevine. But that's why there's not a lot of stuff available. And some of the recordings that were made, they get lost in time. People pass away, and people pass away with, you know, um, material in their vaults,
Value
you know.
information.
Yeah, and people don't know that, that's what they have. And so only time will tell. Things come to the surface in time. That's just the way time works. So one day we may be able to hear some of those lost recordings, or the lost tapes, as we call them.
The Lost Tapes. You remind me of a Nas album, The Lost Tapes. But it would be nice to have all of those, some of the recordings being preserved somewhere. And of course, even some of his writing. I know back in the day, as you rightfully said, there wasn't a lot of cell phones and stuff like that. But we used to write a lot. I mean, there were a lot of things that he could have written. It would be nice to maybe just find out some of the lyrics and the stuff that he was writing, if it is. So I just hope and pray that this project
Well,
with DJ Malosa comes through, and maybe we could experience one or two other things that we haven't been able to find online about Kingpinn.
excuse me for moving around.
Mm.
Okay, I just wanted to show you this. You see this?
Yeah.
This is actually a cover of one of Tondi's rhyme books. Okay, I have this book in my room, and I'm working on a project with DJ Losa of sort of digitally memorializing the lyrics in that book, or
Okay.
some of the selected lyrics in that book. And maybe this is something Zimbabwean artists can talk about. Maybe at some point, an arts museum can be created where not only artists who have left us can be celebrated, but
Mhm.
artists that are alive with us today, but a sort of a current a museum, in terms of that just celebrates the current sort of the current arts out there, not necessarily only music, but I think there's so much arts to be appreciated coming out of Zimbabwe, but a lot of it just
Mhm.
doesn't get the exposure. So maybe people like yourself, influencers in the field, maybe you guys can sit down and discuss some kind of museum where things like that we can, artists or families of artists. I'm sure Muridzekwana Chibadura, Zekwana Tongai Moyo, artists from Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
their families have got things that they may be able to contribute to these museums, that give us a
Mm.
little more insight into these artists and their influences, and the things which made them give us the gifts that they gave us. So that's just something that I would be willing to do, with regards to that kind of initiative to celebrate Zimbabwean artists, and not only just musicians, but there's so many different sectors of the arts that we truly need to celebrate, and we don't.
Mm.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could walk into a museum where there's Safiro Madziketire's first car is parked,
Mm. Mm.
things like that. I
Mm.
think it would be, or that guy. What was his name? The guy. I think I hit you right here, and yeah, didn't you off on there? Who is it? I don't remember. Where we
That's
could actually, who was that?
that's
Baba Sorobi. What
paraffin.
was his name?
Paraffin.
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 Imagine a museum where the actual hat that he wore, it's
Exactly.
actually there in a glass case, and
Mm.
maybe even the lady who made it, her name is there. These are some of the things which, you know, we tend to appreciate them when we go to the Rock Hall of Fame or whatever, but we don't appreciate it about our own artists. But our
Yeah.
own artists
True.
are very interesting as well. So that's just
Mm.
something to consider. But anyway, sorry, I kind of got
No,
on
no,
an
no, no,
aside,
no. To be
because
quite
you asked
honest,
about lyrics, and I was answering your question and saying that yes, we do have some of Kingpin's rhyme books, and G Law Media is working on a documentary that'll be coming out sometime this year, and that may well be part of it as well. So you can look forward to that. Check out G
I
Law
would
Media.
I would definitely check them out. I'm definitely looking forward to that. It's one of those things that, you know what, you also tend to ask yourself as well. And you're right in saying we do appreciate it when we see it, the Hall of Fames, the stars in Hollywood and stuff like that. But when it comes to our own people and our own artists and creatives in Zimbabwe, we don't have a lot of that. So I think times are changing. We're going to see, and I might uh, I might just take your word upon that. I mean, like the stuff that you spoke about, or maybe we could just, have one or two people try and curate something along those lines.
That
Something
was the
that,
word I was looking for.
yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
was the word I was looking for. Yeah,
okay.
a place where they can, curate all these things. Imagine,
Mm,
Kuti, sadly, Gringo akatisiya manje manje, but you know, had we been thinking about this before, there would be a curatorship of, some of those wacky outfits he used to wear and stuff like that. But
mm.
people only think about people once they're gone. They only appreciate people once they're gone.
Yeah, that's the
They
sad
only miss
part.
the water once the well runs dry.
That's the sad part.
Mm.
Um, so you were doing hip hop before Kingpin came and excused you on that. You sort of like, hey, brother, excuse me. Do you have any recollection or any rhymes that you were doing at that time, or something that you could hit us up with to sort of have an understanding? Because we know you're a bad MC as well when it comes to
Ah, snap.
dancehall.
No, we're not gonna do that. You're not gonna get me throwing bars on here, man. Come on now.
Why
Oh
not, Mama?
snap.
Why not?
Oh
Why not?
snap.
Yeah,
Nah, because
just
I wasn't prepared for that.
no
I don't know.
artists are always.
I might hit you up in a second once I get over the initial shock of being
Uh,
asked.
okay, so we slowly cruising along, the life of Kingpin. So eventually now he's grown up and he has this thing that he wants to do. He wants to go and study political science in Cape Town, political science and media studies at the University of Cape Town. Was that in any way something, uh, since you guys were close and now doing all these things together, going to the studio and sort of like having this understanding that, what, he does hip hop and I do my dancehall? Was it in some way or the other something that you agreed with, or you totally were for it, or maybe you had your own reservations to say, you know what, why don't you do it in Zimbabwe or something like that? Is there how was the
No, man.
general feeling
His his
from
his
yourself
his
when you decided
his
that?
life was his life, man, and my life was my life. I was living my best life, and he was living his best life. There's never, I don't remember a time in my life where you know I ever had a problem with anything that my any other member of my family was doing. We always discussed things as a family, and whenever Tondi decided he was going to study political sciences in South Africa, that was what he was going to do, and everybody was happy with that. I see no reason why there would be any issue with that.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I did manage to get one or two songs online, and there's a song that I want to play for you, and a song that you did together with Kingpin. This song, wow, I must just say, it's one of those. It's one of those songs that you ask yourself, okay, this is just amazing talent from Zimbabwe. Why why are we back there? Like, why are we behind the bus right now? Why are we not leading the pack when it comes to African music? Because we talk of Nigeria being sort of like the hub, or South Africa being the hub of music, and there's no real mention of Zimbabwe within that conversation. There's always other countries like Angola or DRC and stuff like that. And Zimbabwe never really gets that mention. But when you guys did when you had the group, the Blackfoot Tribe, and you also had uh, Kingpinn coming through and having this wonderful music that he was creating. Why is it that we never went on top of the list? Why is it that we never sort of reached that pinnacle and stayed there for a couple of months or a year before maybe somebody else booted us off? These are some of these questions that I have when I get to to listen to some of this music. So you had a song with him on his album. I'm just gonna play it here. Okay, I'm sure you can hear that song. Can you?
Okay. Yeah, I can.
I know you. Anyway, mama hit the jackpot when she gave birth to these crackpots. We can't stop dropping words over backdrop. Don't pack locks, we pack spots with people. Putting food on the table, and it's legal. When me and you was tender age, eating cereal. No one ever thought we'd get played on the stereo. Now we ride the airwaves into aerials, chasing airplay from the Cape to Ontario. If you examine our family tree, guaranteed to see we carry an incredible gene. The same unique specimen hasn't been seen in any family ever since the Kennedy stream. Each century seems to produce a dominant crew. A creative forefathers fast down at you. You could ask any scientist to start to dispute. Me and Rassie live in proof that I'm telling the truth. Descended from men and women who defended their villages. From villages bent on getting rid of or killing us. Revolution is embedded in us. Remember this, if you ever on our premises, step into us. And my nephew is next in line. God knows what his mind holds.
Man, those were some wicked raps right there. Those were some wicked rap, and it's a wicked tune. Take me through, just take me through what you guys envisioned when probably collaborated to have this song.
Well, it wasn't as complicated as you make it sound, man. I mean, we were at the prime of our hunger in terms of artistry, or rather, we were at the prime of our vigor, as artists. So he was on his break from college, a sabbatical or whatever you call it, and at the time, Gilbert Muvavariro was just working on the Future project. So I had developed a relationship with Gilbert, and because of the relationship I developed with Gilbert, I was keen to introduce Kingpinn to Gilbert. So when he came over for his sabbatical, I took him down to the studio. I don't even remember what happened, but at the end of the day, we were all happy to have him on board. And Gilbert was like, "Listen, I want you guys to do something for the future album as well," because I'd already been recording a couple of songs, I think, for the Future, and the idea had been, I was taking him to the studio for him to get some studio time, so he could record his project. But Gilbert hijacked him for the Future project. And I think that's when we recorded The King and I, because Gilbert was like, "No, I want to track with both of you." So we recorded. Kingpinn already had 2 verses, so he dropped his verses because he already had them. I had 1 verse, so I dropped my 1 verse, and then he bounced back to South Africa. While he was in South Africa, I finished the 2nd verse, and that's how we recorded that song. So it wasn't complicated. It was just like we were just like I always wanted to have a song called The King and I, and play on the words the king and I, and that was it. So we knew the title of the song already. He had his verses, I dropped a verse, and then later on I dropped another verse, and that was it. But the hook, he had he had that hook was fire. In fact, I think that hook is what made Gilbert say, no, I need you guys to do this track, blah blah blah, because that hook was just fire.
It is. It is.
That was just it.
Uh.
That everybody going wild.
That's
So yeah.
that's the deal breaker right there. That is the thing. I mean, not taking away all the raps and all of the flows that you had on that song. I'm telling you, the moment you hear just the you're like, wow,
Yeah.
wow, you know. Well, forgive me because we are novices in these things of music production and writing and stuff like that. So when you say it wasn't even a big deal, it was just what, and let's have a song. We really don't have that understanding of what happens in the studio. You know what I mean? It's
Well, I
something
mean,
new.
it's not always like that. It depends
Mm,
on the artist that you're working with. But consider that this was my brother. Not only did we grow up sleeping in the same room, we've got a
mm,
chemistry that's probably different from many other artists would have had with another artist, unless that artist was your sibling. So that's what I mean by it wasn't that complicated. But I'm not trying to suggest that making music is just an easy endeavor. That's not what I'm trying to
yeah.
say. I was in the context of that particular song which we were talking about. But with that
Mm,
particular song, for me and him to do that, it was like it was something which was overdue anyway. It was overdue us doing a track together. So it wasn't rocket science. We knew what we were gonna do when we got together, you know what I mean?
mm.
Yeah.
So, did you ever do any other track other than The King and I?
Not in a conventional studio setting, not like recording a song, but we did a lot of freestyles and stuff, like ciphers. Again, if you go to my SoundCloud platform, you can download um, uh, a cipher session, freestyle cipher session that had Tony, the chief from Piece of Ebony / Blackfoot Tribe, um, War Games, Kudzai she's a female rapper, she's sick. Chiwoniso, you know who Chiwoniso
Yeah,
is.
was Dionyso in the
Um,
yes, yes. I listened to that one.
um, Kingpinn, of course, and
Yeah.
the other guy, Rassie, was also there. So, you got recordings like that. But like I said, you need to know where to go to look for these things, and you'll find them.
Man. That's like a treasure trove for me. That's like a treasure pot. Hit me up with those links, and I'm sure anybody else who's watching this, listening to this, would really want to know.
I will
The
do.
biggest thing that I've seen today is within the music industry in Zimbabwe, even the hip hop itself, is that there's no real connection between the old and the new. Do you? And when I say this, I'm trying to look at America, for example, and the hip hop that's in America. Like, I mean, they give a lot of reference, they sample a lot of music coming from their history. So
Hmm.
you have your Jay-Z, they will sample a lot of their old school kind of guys, Louis Armstrongs and stuff like that. They'll try and fix it in there,
I,
sample it up a
I,
little bit. But
I,
within
I,
Zimbabwe,
I disagree with you to an extent, man. I mean, again, it depends what you're listening to, bro. You need to maybe broaden your scope. Maybe, I mean, I've heard artists like MC Cheetah, Brown Sugar, Munetsi. I've heard them sampling Kingpin stuff. I've heard them sampling other Zim artist stuff.
mhm.
But again, you gotta,
what I, what I
your antennas have
what
to
I
be a
meant
bit wider.
what I meant was
Hmm.
in today's hip hop scene right now.
Okay,
Because
okay,
yeah, what
today,
I
all right,
because the
okay.
MC Cheaters and Munetsi and stuff like
No,
that.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I follow, I follow.
exactly. I mean
But
today's.
I mean, but
Mm,
those guys are still doing rhymes today, and like I know that the track that Munetsi like sampled Kingpin on, that's a recent track. It's like this last 2 years, so it's current.
mm,
You know what I
mm,
mean? And I
yeah,
understand what you mean by that. Those rappers are not like current, like young rappers. Like I
exactly.
understand what you mean by that. So
There's a there's a hu-
I
there's a
concede that
huge
point.
there's a huge
I
difference.
concede that point.
Let's talk about him. Let's talk about Kingpin doing his album.
Excuse me.
The inauguration, was that his first album?
Kingpinn never recorded an official album. Inauguration was part of the Shamiso The Future project. The inauguration, and it wasn't called the inauguration, it was called inauguration. And I think I Salute You were on that project. It wasn't an album project. Like I said, I introduced Gilbert to Kingpinn, and I left it at that, and they recorded the projects that they recorded there, but it was it wasn't like an album. I mean, he passed away before he could actually decide what he was going to do with the various projects that he had worked up to that time. Yeah.
So it wasn't an album. It was a couple of, because the reports there that I found online, some of them alluding to the fact that it was an album, and it's nice to clear the air and to just understand exactly what happened with that.
Kingpinn was an individual, so it's not like I spent 24 hours with this guy. I also had my own things to do, and he also had his own things to do. So I wasn't monitoring how many tracks he did and stuff like that. But I would be aware of what projects he did because he'd send me some of the stuff. So I know he recorded with regards to at Shamiso Studios. I know he recorded tracks with Underdog and DJ Smooth, right? He recorded some tracks with Blackfoot Tribe there. He recorded some tracks with me. He recorded, his own solo tracks there. And then, of course, at UCT in Cape Town, where he was recording tracks there as well. So he never released an album, an official album. He just recorded his stuff, and he was playing his game the way he was playing his game.
Yeah. I'm particularly interested. The thing is, with the love that I had for his music, or that I have for his music, I would say it's still there. Of the stuff that, and I know when he passed on, it was abrupt. It was nothing anybody could ever think of. We saw this ballooning career of a hip hop artist from Zimbabwe, and we never thought for a moment it was going to come, like that could come or that could happen. So when you mentioned Cape Town there, again, something just clicks in my mind. It's like, okay, so Cape Town, maybe there could be a couple of recordings there, or maybe they were lost in time because of the times that we were living in, and whatever it is that people were using to record and stuff like that. Do you have any connection? Do you have anybody out there who you think might have one or two tracks from Kingpinn?
Actually, after Kingpinn passed away, some of his friends and colleagues because they used to run a hip hop station at UCT. I think it was UCT Radio. I can't remember the name, but they actually sent me some of what they had in terms of his material. And one of his best friends and one of his sparring partners, called Captain, he also passed away. I can't remember when, but probably in the last 10 years. And he also had some material released, some material with Kingpinn on it as well. So from time to time, when something does resurface, people will get in touch with me and if they know me, and they'd be like, yo, this is what's happening. We've got this material out here and we wanted to let you know. So when I get material like that, I do my best to pass it on. But like I said, the space to watch right now for anything Kingpinn related is G-Law Media, because he's got a stack of stuff that he's working on right now, and his releases are always top quality.
Wow. We cannot wait for G-Law Media. Is GLO, right? GLO.
So it's GEELAW, G-Law Media.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's cool. That will be
Again, I'll send you all
The
his platforms details. He again is another very talented artist. He's a graphic designer, filmographer. He's actually a curator of Zimbabwean music. You may remember a platform. It was called, oh God, what was it called? Damn it, I forgot the name of the platform. When I remember, I'll send it to you via message. But he used to run a very, very big video platform that had like anything musically related to Zimbabwean music. But I don't know why the name has slipped me right now. Sorry about that.
Okay, that's fine. We'll be checking it out, and obviously keeping our ears on the ground to make sure nothing misses us, or we miss nothing on this project. So, did you record, or do you have albums yourself to your name as Rassie I?
Yeah, I released what I'd call my debut album in 2008. That was my first official debut album. It's called Return to Life, and that's available on all major digital platforms. And you can still get a physical CD if you're lucky here and there. But I haven't released another official album since that. I've just been releasing a lot of free music in terms of mixtapes and singles. But at the moment I'm working on a project, another album, and I've got quite a lot of different like projects coming out. Some in South Africa, some in the UK, and further afield. So it's hopefully going to be an interesting year for those who may have an interest in my music.
Wow. Okay. We look forward to that, and obviously, we know from what we just played there. That song "King and I" with Kingpinn. I mean, the flows there were ridiculous. I mean, I kept pinching myself. Am I dreaming, or what? Is this Zimbabwean stuff? Because majority of the stuff we were exposed to at that time when we were growing up was what we could hear on radio. So the radio guys, and we couldn't afford to buy your CDs. I mean, at that time, so the radio guys would always play Inauguration, and the stuff that's popular that they would pick from the album and play that, and we got to listen to that more than we did to some of the stuff that when I was doing the research and I was trying to get some stuff online. I realized, what, there is some really good pieces of artworks that are out there that we just didn't get exposed to. So my thinking and my idea is that through platforms like this as well, we might just expose the many facets of our beloved king of hip hop, Kingpinn. What do you think about the current state of hip hop in Zimbabwe?
What about it? What do you mean?
Who are you vibing to? Do you have anybody that you think might just run with it and do some good stuff with it? Do you have artists that you think might just get closer to your little brother?
Well, I don't think about hip hop or music in that context. Like, oh, these guys are trying to get better or closer to my brother. Because even he, if he was alive today, he'd tell you that he was not aspiring to be the king of hip hop, like you call him. He was just an artist plying his particular art, and full stop. So I don't think about things in that context. I just enjoy things for what they are, or full joy things for what they are, and leave it at that. It's not a competition. Music is not a competition. Every artist has a valuable contribution. Even the artists you don't like, their contribution is still valid, because by doing something that you don't like, they're teaching you to either have diversity or class, either one, But at the end of the day, I really don't think of the music or musicians in that context of, this guy or that girl is better than this guy or that girl. I just appreciate what's there. But in terms of the state of hip hop in Zimbabwe, I love it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Some of the artists that I'm currently vibing to, you know, um, and as with everything in life, when we were growing up and we were getting into hip hop and reggae dancehall, our elders didn't understand what the hell we were listening to. Just like some of the stuff I listen to today, I don't understand it, but I still enjoy it. And I
Yeah.
may not understand it for a myriad of different reasons. And let me elaborate. One of my favorite rappers right now is Awa Kiwe. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
Excuse
From
me,
from
pardon me?
from Bulawayo. From Bulawayo.
Yes. Okay. I don't understand much of what she says, not because she's speaking in intelligible language. It's just that I don't understand Ndebele
Mm,
as much as I should, being a Zimbabwean, and
mm.
that's my fault. But that's a artist that I'm rocking with in the hip hop world right now. I mean, um, I've heard a few of Holy Ten's tracks. Some of his stuff is very, very powerful as well, you know. But there's a lot of stuff out there, that I like, man. I mean, I can't remember all of it right now in this minute, but
Mhm.
definitely our Kiwi, I'm rocking with her hardcore. She's like her imagery, her flow, her cadence, the topics she talks about, and just the amount of work that she does as an artist to push her brand and her ideology. What she's doing for her culture, it's powerful. So I'm happy with the state of hip hop. As long as the artists continue to be creative, respectful of each other, respectful of their country, respectful of their culture, and just respectful of life. There's nothing wrong with the current crop of hip hop, man. Nothing. I'm not seeing a problem with that.
All right. I love the mention of our Kiwi there. I'm telling you, that is one lady, that is one rapper, that is one hip hop artist to look out for. She's really going places with the
She's the real deal. That is
vibes.
hip hop. You said it. She's the
Yeah.
real deal. She embodies hip hop, but at the same time, she she embodies it with her true sense of self and her heritage, her cultural heritage. A very powerful message. Before you even hear her raps, just when you see the imagery, it's so powerful. And
Wow.
and and that is hip hop. Hip hop is, the five elements of hip hop include, the visuals. So it's brilliant.
Wow. All right. So I salute you. Did you, when you heard that song from Kingpin
Hmm.
singing I Salute You, what was your immediate reaction? What are some of the things that come back into your mind when you hear "I Salute You" from Kingpin? I'm just gonna play a part here from the song and sample it a little bit as we're having this conversation. Maybe just spike your memory a little bit. Okay, so can you hear that?
No, I can't hear anything.
Oh, okay. There we go. Let's do that. Can you hear something now? Okay.
Nope,
Nothing still.
nothing. But
Okay.
don't worry, I know the song, so
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm sure you've
unless
played
you
it
want
a
to edit it
thousand
in,
times.
edit it into a, You can edit it in for your listeners.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the song you're talking about.
So, well, what was your immediate reaction with that song, or general feeling rather from hearing that song?
No, I mean my general feeling was it was a dope song. I mean, I was there when he recorded it, so it was like it wasn't like I mean I was there when he recorded it literally. So you know, I remember when he heard the beat for the first time. Delani Makalema was the one who made the beat, and immediately he was like, "Right, I want that beat." You know, he loved the beat, and
Mhm.
then he had his rhymes were ready, man. I mean, Tondi had been writing his rhymes for a long time, and he was just waiting for the opportunity to be in a good studio. And that was, we were on a mission. That was my mission, to get him into a good studio. I got him into Shamisa Records, and so he set about recording dope music. That was it. So I wasn't surprised. I didn't have any particular feelings about the song other than that, he was doing what he was meant to be doing, and it was dope.
Wow, that song catapulted him, I think, into some icon status, and he stayed there for the longest because the amount of depth within the content or the lyrics that he is singing in there, I have never experienced that in any other artist or hip hop artist in Zimbabwe for the longest. And yes, given I might miss one or two artists out there, but I don't think there's anybody else capable of the depth that Kingpin had. And I'm not saying this because I'm sitting right here and I'm talking to his brother. No, this is something that I've always said, and a lot of people will say, "Okay, how about?" And I'm like, "Okay, give me something that matches exactly, or not exactly, but just competes." And I know you said it's not about competition, but when we want to talk about hip hop and probably getting it to some sort of stage, the our keyword stage that you're talking about, we need to be really calling a spade, because even in America as well, there are artists that are big or that do know how to get on a rap song or a hip hop song. And then there are artists that will not and will spend the rest of their lives trying to make it, and then they don't because they're not that good. So we must be able, in one way or the other, to distinguish without hurting anybody else's feelings that, you know what, I think this is a really dope song, and get me something or give me something that can be in the same level as this. I still just haven't found one. Sorry to say. You might be humble, but I won't mince my words. I don't think our keyword is getting there, is going there. I'm expecting her album to drop, but you know what? Without an album, with maybe a couple of singles here and there, with a couple of battles here and there, Kingpin is arguably the best that I've ever listened to in Zimbabwe. That's just me.
I'm 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 not here to argue with you, fam. So that's your opinion. You're entitled to it. I'm not here to argue with you.
Okay, but yeah, thanks a lot, man, for hanging out with me. Last but not least, let's get into the issue or the times when Kingpin was sadly uh, was uplifted, or he went, or he slept. There's so many words that we can use to substitute the fact that we don't have him right here with us today. Take us through the moments before, or even the moment when you heard the news. What was going through your life? Where were you?
I was here in Ireland, and I received a call from my father with the news, as he had just been informed because Kingpinn was in, as I said, he was in Cape Town. My parents were in Zimbabwe. I was in Ireland. So the news, I suppose, traveled in that trajectory from Cape Town to Harare to Ireland. And, we just reacted as any other family does when they're faced with tragedy. They make the necessary moves to arrange to be together, to, to prepare the deceased for burial and all other family matters that must be taken care of at that point. So we just did as others do.
I mean, it came as a shock in the manner in which he went. What and then there were a couple of issues as well written or spoken about in terms of Kingpinn taking his own life. What were your thoughts around those?
I didn't have any thoughts about that. I mean, when you're dealing with death in the family, I think the last thing anybody's thinking about is what's being said on the internet or in the media or anything. You're dealing with bereaved family members, and so your priority at the time is to take care of your family. Your priority is never to give a toss what is being said in the media. If you care about that at such a time, then you seriously need to introspect and find out what's really important to you in your life. Otherwise, that's not really important.
He ever confide in you in terms of maybe anything that could have been bugging him at that time prior to his death? Did he ever say anything? Did he ever try and reach out to you or reached out to you?
Nothing that would have made me suspicious that we were about to lose him. No.
Okay. All right. And to any of your family members, there was nothing. There was nobody he reached out to, maybe to try and just have a discussion or a conversation on whatever was bugging him at that time.
Yeah, he did, but I don't think that it was in the context that you're trying to put it in now. Of course, he would have communicated to people and other family members that he was having problems, but it was not in the context of him passing away. It was just like you would every day. When you're experiencing issues, you may confide in certain family members about those issues, but unfortunately, what happened. It is what it is.
And there was reports of a letter that he wrote. Did the family ever get to have it in your possession and probably just talk about it or discuss about it?
What reports were those?
They were just I think if I can just check here, where did I get that? I think I might have just closed the tab here, but there were reports that before he committed suicide, he wrote a letter.
Yeah, he did.
Okay. And I mean, as a family, you obviously you received that letter. Did you find anything? Yeah.
Of course, we have the letter. I mean, you left it for us. Why wouldn't we have the letter?
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just trying to find out exactly. Just probably try and see his state of mind. Or
I'm not going to tell you what was in the letter. That's a private letter to us.
I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. But yeah, I just to sort of have closure within the family as well. That what, we've got the letter. We understand what he was going through, and it's understandable. Let's move on. We as a family, we have an understanding, because at times when that happens to other families, they don't get the chance to actually maybe have an understanding of what was happening. Do you understand? Before
Well, I
suicide.
think I think you're assuming that the letter was about whatever his problems were. And so, in that assumption, you would assume that by him leaving a letter, we then received closure. I don't think that would be accurate. I don't think anybody ever gets closure once somebody they loved passes away. I think that's very rare. You know, Especially when somebody they care about passes away in a way that was not natural. So yeah, I'm just referring to this issue of closure. There's not particularly any closure for me anyway. So it's just one of those things. But I think that's just normal. I don't think anybody who has lost somebody they were very close to. I don't think anybody goes through closure sorry, in that context, I suppose.
Yeah. I know it might sound also very rhetoric to ask, how much you miss him, but I would go ahead and ask him. I mean, are there things that you at times think if you were still around, you would have done together or gone through together?
Of course. I mean, I'm just normal, just like you. I'm sure if you've got somebody that you that was particularly close to you that's no longer with you, of course you sometimes reminisce, and wish that you could do things together, but that's not going to change what it is. So but of course I do. Sometimes I think things like that, but that's normal, isn't it?
Yeah, very normal. Very normal. All right, man. So that's really nice of you to sort of separate your busy schedule and have this conversation with me. Your family has obviously grown. Mdara Makoni vachembedzana and my cousins akura. You have children. I don't know. Maybe your children have children. I don't know, but
Not yet. Not
not
yet.
yet.
Not
How
quite
many
yet.
kids? How many kids do you have?
I have 5 children.
5 children. Anybody within the Makoni clan who is most probably going to take up or is inspired to take up some of the work that Kingpinn started for the Makoni family? Because you were not known maybe prior to 1980 as a very musical family. You spoke about your father being in the liberation struggle. So that was the family's history, and then that sort of changed when Kingpinn was uh, doing his music and etc. Anybody hoping and wishing and maybe trying to take up the space that Kingpinn once occupied?
Not particularly trying to take that space, but I mean, I have younger brothers, and my own sons are interested in music, but not in the context that you are talking about, trying to take over spaces.
Obviously,
But
nobody would take over.
you,
But
you may well in years to come have another artist coming out of our camp, surely. Indeed.
oh wow, okay, that would be nice. That would be nice to hear and to see. But all the best with that. Once again,
Thank you.
Rassie Takura Makoni, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I know it's been tricky with the networks and stuff like that, with the kids trying to knock and come into our spaces while we're having this conversation. But thank you very much for just being a sportman and selecting this time to just talk about the hip hop king, in my own opinion, Kingpinn.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to chat with you about somebody very close and dear to us. And with that, I'll give you a few bars. I've been living on the edge of the knife, barrel of the nine, looking at me dead in the eye. I had a dream when I was young that I'd be staying alive, rocking the mic, the crowd looking. All right, I'll leave it at
that. Come on, man. Do you want me to put an instrumental to that? Huh?
Nah, I'll hit you up on part 2 of the interview.
Thank you very much, Takura Makoni, aka Rassie. Man, thank you very much. Cannot wait for the links for all your music and Kingpinn's music and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, there is a whole lot of following out there from Zimbabweans, from Africa, from the Southern African region, people that know Kingpinn and that love him. So it would be nice to just share that music and to share all of that artwork to all of the people that were so much so in love and are still in love with you, your brother Kingpinn. Thank you very much for this, for the time.
I will do, sir. Thank you very much. I'll send those links through as soon as possible.
Okay.
Salute.
Salute. Wow. That was Takura Makoni, brother to Tonderai Makoni, aka Kingpinn. Just having a conversation with him about his little brother Kingpinn, who I believe is the true hip-hop king from Zimbabwe. And I say this with respect to all of the other MCs that are out there, all of the other hip-hop artists that are out there. But man, this guy just knew how to deliver some good rhymes. He just knew how to deliver a really, really good song. We're going to lead out, and I'm going to play you a song that I love, and a song that was made popular by all the other radio stations in Zimbabwe. And of course, this is Kingpinn, Tonderai Makoni, and this is I Salute You.
I salute you, everyone who died as a slave. I salute you, anyone who cried from their pain. I salute you, anyone who fought to be free. I salute you, everyone who taught me to dream. I salute you, anyone who sacrificed themselves. I salute you, those who spent half their life in jail. I salute you, those who found pride in their skin. I salute you, dark African melanin. Yo, the land of milk and honey was built on money generated by a generation of slaves who stayed poor, despite the elimination of segregation and slavery. Their bravery remains with me, never forgotten. The cotton picked back when they was niggas and spits, driven by whips, and their salaries were nickels and bits. Never found its way to the wardrobes of poor folks whose pores soaked in sweat from chores they did. Swords from whips turned into permanent